So sadly, we know that critical race theory is alive and well in the military. In fact, students at West Point, actually are required to take introductory coursework in the subject, and I believe also in the Air Force Academy. I could be wrong about that, but I don't think that I am. We also know that the military is making diversity hires up and down the chain of command. It is at all levels in the military. But, the good news is that like the average everyday people in the military are actually not really happy about this. And at least one of them has started to speak out against it. And of course, in typical critical race theory fashion, he has been canceled as a result of questioning what in the holy hell the military is doing. This was a big story over the weekend, and we're going to look at one article about it from the New York Post. Space Force commander removed after saying Marxism is infiltrating the military. A lieutenant colonel in Space Force has been removed from his post after he went on a podcast to claim that Marxism is invading the military, according to a new report. Lieutenant Colonel Matthew Lomier, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, was temporarily reassigned after going on a podcast touting his book, Irresistible Revolution, Marxism's Goal of Conquest and the Unmaking of the American Military, according to military.com. The decision was based on public comments made by Lieutenant Colonel Lomier on a recent podcast, a Space Force spokesperson told the outlet. Lieutenant General Stephen Whiting has initiated a command directive investigation on whether these comments constitute prohibited partisan political activity. Now, I have always said, I don't understand why critical race theory is a partisan issue. I truly don't. This is not an issue of left versus right. This is an issue of authoritarianism versus liberalism. These are two completely different spectrums. I was a Democrat for 20 years. I left the party last February, after I realized just how badly my party had fallen off of the crazy town cliff, and just not wanting to be a part of that any longer. But one of the reasons I joined the Democrats back in the 1990s, it was all around free speech and free expression and free exchange of ideas. And at that point, I'm sorry, I know the Republicans like to say, Tipper Gore. No, dude. It was the Republicans who were trying to censor stuff. It was the Republicans trying to censor what art I could look at, what ideas I could consider, what clothes I could wear. I don't give a flip what Tipper Gore did. But it was mostly the Republicans doing it, and that's why I became a Democrat in the first place. Now, my values never changed. They never changed. I never moved from this position because I'm not a tribalist. I don't ascribe myself to needing to adhere to the values of any one particular group. I figure out what my values are myself, and then I go with the group that is most aligned with those values. This is why I have such a hard time sometimes with people in the GOP who are like, why don't you just agree with us? Well, because I don't. I'm sorry. I'm not going to play this game. But anyway, I digress. This should not be a partisan political issue. Everyone on every side of the aisle should be against what critical race theory is doing to our country in terms of completely stifling dissent, not allowing people to consider multiple sets of ideas, calling someone you disagree with a racist, even if their disagreement has nothing to do with race at all, completely rewriting and reinterpreting history, even when we have primary source documentation to tell you that what they're saying is not correct in any way, shape, or form. Every single person who has any desire to understand the truth at all should be against critical race theory. But no, here we go. Lomier, commander of the 11th Space Warning Squadron at Buckley Air Force Base in Colorado, got into hot water after appearing on a conservative podcast, Information Operation, last week. His book claims that a neo-Marxist agenda has infiltrated the military. The diversity and inclusion industry and the trainings we are receiving in the military is rooted in critical race theory, which is rooted in Marxism. True! That's true! Check! He insisted that his book is not political, but rather a warning about the increased politicization of the armed forces, some of which he says he has seen firsthand. Lomier also took apparent issue with Pentagon Press Secretary John Kirby, who he referred to as a Pentagon spokesperson, claiming that Kirby said that there are too many white pilots in the Air Force and Space Force. If you want to provide that kind of messaging to your already struggling pilot force, you can already expect to see further retention problems. Dude, this guy is talking sense, and he is the one that they fired. Kirby denied making that comment in a statement on Friday. The department has an open door to any qualified American who wants to serve. Diversity throughout the force is a source of strength. We cannot afford to deprive ourselves of the talents and voices of a full range of the nation that we defend. But Lomier says he's gotten thank yous from other active duty service members. Lomier told military.com that he consulted with his superiors as well as legal and public affairs officials about the book and was told he wasn't required to submit it for security and pre-publication review. My intent has never been to engage in partisan politics. I've written a book about a particular political ideology in the hopes that our Defense Department might return to being politically nonpartisan in the future, as it has honorably throughout history. And this is actually a really key point. It is not this lieutenant colonel that has gotten partisan in this issue. It is the military. The military, by embracing a fringe, far-left ideology whose only basis is basically made up publications and materials that come from a very specific set of academia. It's the military who has gone partisan on this issue. It is not this particular person, it is the military. And anyone who, again, has a reasonable mind and is incapable of thinking for themselves and looking at information and saying, I don't think this sounds right. I don't think that this is going to be good for the people that we are charging with the defense of this country. They're the ones that are losing in this particular scenario. However, there is kind of a little bit of a happy ending to this story. Well, a happy, I guess, midpoint to the story, because the story, I'm sure, is far from over. But Jack Posobiec on Twitter has really taken the reins. He's been promoting this guy's book. He's been really pushing it out there. He even said, and I very much appreciated this, I am keeping track of every so-called conservative leader or influencer who has not tweeted about the Space Force whistleblower. What do you think happens next if you don't draw the line in the sand here? Be smart. Well, I'm going to say that I actually think that the line should have been drawn in the sand a long, long time ago, but partially thanks to Jack's promotion, this book is now the number one book. The number one book on all of Amazon. Oh, you hate to see it. There's actually a wait time if you want to get the paperback or hardcover version. You actually have to wait now because they're completely out of stock. They got to make more because so many of them were bought to support this person. You could still get the Kindle version. I can't wait to read it myself. We can see what are some of the book titles that it's beating out right now. Amazon bestsellers, best-selling books, Irresistible Revolution. Oh, it's such a thing of beauty. He's beating out Dr. Seuss. He's beating out Levin, Seth Rogen. The Four Agreements, Bill O'Reilly. He's beating out Oprah. I love it. I'm kind of surprised The Very Hungry Caterpillar hasn't gotten canceled yet, if I'm honest. But anyway, this just goes to show, guys, that when you speak up, there are so many people out there who will have your back. Yes, you might lose your job. That's very, very true. You might lose your job. You might lose friends. And all of these things are true. But more and more people have to start standing up for what is right and what is correct. And this is one of just many examples that we have of people who stand up for what's right. They may suffer some short-term consequences, but long-term, the community will take care of you. Number one best-selling book on all of Amazon right now. The community will take care of you. Listen, if you ever had any questions about what you would have done during the civil rights movement, or even, dare I say, in Germany in the 1930s, leading up to the event I'm not going to say the name of because I'll probably get demonetized, but you know what I'm talking about. If you had any questions about what you would have done during those times, now, what you are doing now, right this second, is the answer to what you would have done then. Mark my words, this is what we're facing. You're going to have to pick a side, and if you wait for them not to come for you, well, you're going to be out of luck because they're going to come for you at some point. They're going to come for everyone. So do you want to go down fighting, or do you want to go down silent? That's your choice. Which is it going to be? And know that if you speak up, there are people out there who will have your back. There are people that will take care of you. But if every single person was against all of this nonsense and everyone just spoke up right now and said, no, we're not doing this anymore, they would have nothing left. There are so many more of us than there are of them, but the sad thing is that we are silent and they are not, and that is why they win. The people who win will always be every single time. The people who are expressing their point of view. You want to say, oh, we're the silent majority. We just don't do that. Well, guess what? That's why you're going to lose. The fact that you're silent, that is why you are going to lose every single time. If you don't speak up now, I don't know what you're waiting for. All right, guys, that's all I have. I'll see you soon.